What's going on, everybody? Today you are joined by myself and Rynot, known as Rynot916 on YouTube and Rynot926 on Twitch. And we're going to be doing a little series called LabCast, and it's basically a Pokemon-themed short podcast. So we're going to be aiming between like 10 and 20-minute episodes, nothing too crazy, so that you can kind of just like have little episodes here and there to go off, nothing like an hour long. And today's episode is going to be about shiny odds in Pokemon, which I think Rynot and I have a lot of experience in this area. We have both completed the Shiny Living Dex in Pokemon Let's Go, and as far as we know, we're the two closest Twitch streamers to having the Gen 8 Shiny Living Dex as well, with Rynot only needing 2 more Shinies and myself needing 4. But yeah, so the idea in general is going to be talking about shiny odds as a whole, how they've evolved, what we think about current shiny odds, and that's basically it. So, any opening thoughts on this or not?
So we obviously know that shiny odds have changed a lot over the years, and with the odds changing, there's also been new methods introduced. When shinies were originally brought into the games in Gold, Silver, and Crystal, as far as color variation changes go, there was no method to it. It was just you have a 1 in 8192 chance of when you hit a random encounter that it's going to be a different color than it normally is. And then as the games changed and odds were changed, and then they introduced methods, there became a lot of different ways for people to be able to obtain shinies, which I think is really cool. But then there's also the whole argument to shinies don't have the same value they have now because they're way too easy to get and everybody can get them. But overall, it is still a really, really cool thing to do inside of Pokemon games. Not everybody is going to have the patience for it, just flat out saying that. It does take a lot of patience. But I like where the shiny odds are now. I don't think they're going to reduce them again. So when it came to Generation 6...
You mean like the base odds, right?
Yeah, the base odds. I don't think they're going to reduce the base odds any further than they have, since Gen 6. Because then if they just reduce the base odds overall, then it's just going to become way, way too easy. So I like where the odds are now.
I agree with that for sure with the base odds. I don't think anything higher than 4096 makes much sense. Because we already have a lot of people these days who they just start the game and they like accidentally find a shiny through their playthrough, which I think the frequency of that is just right now. Where like it's happening to enough people to where like the word gets around to that it happened, so that more people are interested in finding shinies on their own. And there is the full odds hunting community, which they specifically don't want to use shiny methods to increase their odds. They don't even use shiny charms. So increasing the odds past 4096 would kind of alienate them even further. You already have a lot of full odds hunters who just stick to the first 5 gens. Specifically because they don't want that easier odds. So if you go even further than 4096, like to 2048 or something, I really think that does just alienate a large group of people, which is not really beneficial to anyone. We don't want less people shiny hunting. We want more people shiny hunting because the community grows and it's more fun.
Exactly. And with the odds only having been cut in half, to go down to 4096, you still see people that mainly hunt in those first 5 generations. When they get games on Switch or like in those later generations that have those odds, they just don't go for the shiny charm, or they just stick to the hunts that are always going to be full odds no matter what, like the fossils. So there are still ways that they can, in those newer games, still hunt at full odds, and it still feels more rewarding when the shinies appear.
Yeah, I've always wished that there was an option right at the beginning of making a save file. It's like, do you want this to be 8192 or 4096? And I feel like that would just be really cool for a large number of full odds hunters. The interesting thing, you mentioned that there were no shiny hunting methods early on. There is the accidental method of like the chain breeding with shinies in Gen 2, where like if you have a shiny parent or just a shiny DVs, you do have a higher chance. It's actually interesting. I've always wondered if that like programming, I don't know if I want to say error, but the way that it was programmed at the time was that their DVs, which eventually became IVs, dictated whether or not it could be shiny. So if a parent had those DVs, it would pass it down and had a higher chance of getting a shiny. I wonder if that was the influence that caused them to make shiny hunting methods in the first place. I've always thought about that, or if maybe it was just that they were like, hey, maybe we should make it easier for people to get shinies. I don't really know where it lies there.
Yeah, it's tricky with Gen 2 because the way that like the whole breeding mechanic worked is that the parents and then especially with the Ditto and whatnot would pass down the IVs or the DVs in Gen 2, like you said, into the egg. But because that is how they determined the shinies in Gen 2, it basically just kind of overlapped. Yeah. And then Generation 3, they separated that completely.
Yeah.
But it makes for some really interesting situations when it comes to what Pokemon can or cannot be shiny inside Generation 2. Like when you are hunting for shiny starters, a female starter will never be shiny.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
Because like the switches that need to be flipped in order to make it shiny, the combination of those like DVs will never have a female starter in it.
Not just starters, right? That's EV as well, no?
I believe that's EV too, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's anything with
any Pokemon that's a 1 in 8
yeah.
female ratio. And then the unknowns is super interesting too.
Oh yeah. Just certain forms can be shiny in Gen 2.
Yeah, because their forms are also determined by the DVs, which are the same switches that determine shinies. And it's super interesting because the only the only unknowns that can be shiny in Gen 2 are Unknown I and Unknown V.
Yeah, I need to hunt for a V in Gen 2.
It's super, super cool.
So yeah, like you were saying before, they introduced all the shiny hunting methods for the first time. If you don't consider Masuda, which obviously that's like the first shiny hunting method, Rynot and I don't really like
the most painful.
Yeah, Rynot and I are not fans of Masuda method. I know a lot of people love Masuda, and that's all they'll do. Generally, those are people who are more interested in getting competitive shinies, or just like I guess it's more towards the competitive, but because even though, and I've seen this in my hunts, I've seen this in your hunts, and just like if you think about the time of it. Like I said, we're both doing a Gen 8 Shiny Living deck, so we've done a lot of shiny hunting this gen. Masuda is only faster if you get lucky, which is not really faster then, because if I get lucky on a normal wild hunt, then maybe it'll be faster than a lucky Masuda hunt. Because you get 60 eggs an hour if you're really not making mistakes and it's a low hatch steps.
Yeah, as long as it's not like a pseudo or something like that, you can get about 60 to 70-ish per hour.
Yeah, 70, you're booking it.
Or you're hatching Magikarps.
Yeah, true. Oval charms, low step count, that all matters. But 60 an hour, that's 8.5 hours to get to odds. You can get 150 to 200 wild encounters for overworlds an hour. And if it has a high spawn percentage, like Roly-Coly, you get nearly 200 an hour because it's just so quick.
Yeah, when I was doing my first Roly-Coly overworld hunt, I was calculating it, and I think I peaked at almost 250 for 1 hour.
See, that's insane.
When I was hunting, because it's the only thing that will spawn in that patch of grass apart from a 1% Trubbish, and the Trubbish will try to run away from you. And
exactly.
Itself, which just makes it so much easier.
I also did this thing for my Roly-Coly hunt. I checked one of the spawns and then reset, so I knew that spawn wasn't shiny, and then I only went between two, so that I wouldn't have to go out of just a straight line path. And
that's smart.
It was super quick. And I mean, that's 250 an hour, which is crazy fast. That's 5 hours, and you're at odds. So technically, in certain situations, wild hunting is considerably faster if you're going to go to an average hunt. So it's interesting.
And the other thing is, you can get marks. For people that care about getting marks, you can only get them on wild encounters. You can't get them on eggs. Or, I feel the static legendaries. It's just from wild.
I feel like all shiny hunters kind of care about marks, even if they don't want to say that they do, because it's just another little thing, like a shiny. It's a shiny and a shiny. So there's definitely a part that we all care about marks. But yeah, I mean, it's super interesting. I actually really prefer in Gen 8 doing the random grass encounters, because the chance of phasing is super, super interesting. Like it adds this little extra layer of like, oh, I hope I get the shiny I want. Like, I don't know. It makes it more interesting.
It makes it feel like the older games again,
Exactly.
because we only got overworld encounters like the way we have them in Gen 8 starting in Let's Go Pikachu. And even
True.
all the way like up to Gen 7, Ultra Sun and Moon included, you had to do random grass encounters.
And
So it
on that
makes it
note,
feel
this is
yeah.
the first game where there's not really a chance of like phasing if you don't accidentally run into a different Pokemon, because in Let's Go they were overworld shinies, so the chance of phasing was huge in Let's Go.
Exactly. And because we can't see the overworld shinies in Sword and Shield, like you could phase, like you could be only going for Rookities, and there could be a Wooloo over there, but you're never gonna bump into that Wooloo because you're not hunting for it, so you don't know that it's a shiny, so you don't count it as a phase.
Yeah, it kind of irks me. I wonder where you sit on them not giving us overworld shinies for Gen 8 in general, because it really bothers me in the sense of I don't know how many shinies I've just biked past like while doing strong spawn checks or doing raids or something, and it just kills me a little bit. Like it's probably in the high double digits.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I feel the same way, but I look at it from the perspective of if we didn't have the wild area, I think they would have done it. And
that's a good point.
Purely because you can bike through the wild area. You can do 5 minutes to basically not even 5 minutes
see
to do a lap
hundreds of Pokemon
wild area, and you can see hundreds and hundreds of spawns.
Yeah.
So if they did overworld shinies that way, you wouldn't need the shiny charm really. Obviously, it would still help, but if they did that, I think the shiny value. I've said this before on stream. I think the shiny value would just completely tank, because literally every 20 seconds there'd be somebody posting to Twitter, oh, shiny this, shiny that, shiny
it's
this.
true, but
so I'm glad they didn't do that.
That brings up a whole other topic. Like, what is shiny value? Is there a shiny value? Is it just a shiny value for yourself? Which I think that it's definitely just how you value the shinies. But then I do think that shiny value is kind of a real thing, because at the beginning of Dynamax Adventures with Crown Tundra, people were super excited for every shiny that they were getting, and I've noticed just in like my stream chat the reactions tapering a little bit. It's no longer like, holy crap, I got a shiny Golurk or something. Now it's like, just got a shiny Stoutland, like, yay. Like, like people just they're like, give me the legendary. And I feel like because that's another thing that I wanted to talk about, is that the odds of Dynamax Adventures. What do you think of them? For those that don't know, by the way, the odds of Dynamax Adventures are 1 in 300 without Shiny Charm, 1 in 100 with Shiny Charm, and you get 4 encounters per run.
So I like the odds of I like the shiny odds basically. Mm-hmm. It's actually been calculated that if you're just going for the legendary, Dynamax Adventures are actually the least optimal way to hit odds.
See, I hadn't done the calculations, but I was going to talk about that like it takes so long to get one encounter. Easily 15 times longer.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're just counting the legendary, or if you're just doing the Dynamax Adventure and you're running through and you're counting everything as 4 encounters, like it's still going to take a while. You could do 4 wild encounters you could do like 4 batches of Masuda method eggs in the amount of time it takes you to do 1 Dynamax Adventure, like at least. So it is definitely, if you're just going for shinies, it is the least optimal way to hunt them, but at the same time,
it's definitely the most fun.
It's so much fun.
So much fun.
When you're doing soft resets in Ultra Sun and Moon wormholes, when you're at like a Rayquaza, wormhole, you're never gonna phase, on like a potential Lycanroc or something else that's got a really, really good shiny.
Yeah.
But if you're running through a Rayquaza den, you've got 3 other chances that if your Rayquaza is not shiny, there might be something else in there that is. So it's definitely the most enjoyable.
I also think that they did an interesting job of keeping the same odds, but making the rarer legendaries rarer. Like, the rarer legendaries that didn't have shinies before, besides the Tapus, those are actually relatively easy to beat, I would say. But what's it called? Zygarde and Necrozma. I mean, Zygarde is a super hard raid, and Necrozma is
it's the hardest thing. It's
yeah,
the hardest
for sure. And Necrozma is more difficult than your average. And I've heard Solgaleo and Lunala aren't particularly easy either. But like when you compare that to like Ultra Beasts, those are like the easiest. Like you could one shot Pheromosa with Relicath. Like
Yeah, like the Ultra Beasts are relatively easy. The Lake Spirits are a joke.
yeah, they're so easy.
And the Kanto birds are actually quite easy as well.
Yeah, things that like have been shiny huntable a million times are easier. And yeah, it's interesting because I feel like a lot of people who thought that this method was so quick and going back to that like devaluing shinies idea, resets in Ultra Sun and Moon and Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire are so fast. They're so incredibly quick. They're like 20 to 25 seconds. It's like you can get 3 encounters a minute. That's really fast odds. Like
so
they're some
of the fastest games to reset in. I think I timed it one time because I was doing when I was doing Ultra Beast resets. I think from the point that you soft reset to the point where you hit continue, Ultra Sun and Moon is 13 seconds.
That's insane.
Yeah, it is by far the fastest game to reset, and then, because there have been people in my streams that have said, I don't know how you can soft reset Sword and Shield. It feels like it takes so long. I'm like, it's really easy to explain. Vinny and I played Let's Go.
Yeah, it's true.
there you go.
It's true.
that is why it's easy.
The soft resets in Sword and Shield, like if you're doing a soft reset method, or something like that, they're not that bad. I think they average like 32, 33 seconds if you're being relatively optimal. And that's compared to Let's Go, where both you and I did all the legendaries on them, and that was 40 to 42 seconds, which doesn't sound like that big of a difference, but when you're doing 1, 2, 3, 4,000 resets, it just starts to get like disgusting.
It starts to really, really add up. And the other thing that would suck is if your Joy-Con would not want to pair with Let's Go, you would get like, there was a couple times where it just would not pair, and it was like a minute 30 reset for it.
It's the most annoying thing in the world. By the way, if you're resetting in Let's Go, press the Joy-Con button one time. Do not spam it. It makes it take longer to pair. I learned that on my 3700 Zapdos reset. So, yeah. I mean, there's so much that we could talk about on this topic, and we can definitely revisit it. And yeah, we're gonna try to wrap it up here though, because like I said, we want to make these relatively easily consumable. So like 20 minutes needs to be like a hard maximum, I would say. But if you have a topic that you want us to talk about, anything Pokemon related, and maybe in the future we'll even go into like more general games. That's not really my area of expertise though. Just to be honest, I'm more into Pokemon in specific games, where Rye, because of your job, you're more involved in general games. But yeah, if you have any other ideas for what we should talk about, that would be great. And if you, again, haven't checked us out, I'm VinnyInTheLab here on YouTube, well, you're on the channel now, and on Twitch it's the same thing. And Rynot's YouTube will be linked in the description, as long as with his Twitch. But his YouTube is Rynot916, Twitch is Rynot926, and yeah, I really hope that we could do another one of these soon and see what we can eventually talk about.
Yeah, this was a cool first thing to talk about. I think it's something that, like, it's come up a lot in both of our streams, like the shiny odds, especially with the Reggies super recently, like, they are affected by charm. It is confirmed. I know it doesn't seem like it.
Went out of my way to confirm that.
Like literally everybody in the Twitch community, both streamers and viewers, are going into like the 3,000s and 4,000s, but they are affected by charm. Collectively our odds just suck, but that's how odds work.
I mean, I'm at 5,400 on my Regidrago and went to 3,900 on Elky, and I still believe that the charm affects it. I just think I'm having a bad time of it. So
7,003 stun fists later.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I went to 4,500 on Impidimp and didn't get it. 6,605 on Wooloo. This is the issue of not optimal like wild encounter odds, is that you could go to really, really high number hunts. It's just part of it. Yeah. All right, but guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, our links are going to be down in the description, and I hope that you join us again next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.